Podcasts were approaching and the wind began to howl. Yes, it's the first installment in a Jimi Hendrix double bill of Pop Screen, the Geek Show podcast that looks at the good, the bad, and the bizarre of movies either starring by or about pop stars. No, the podcast covers a broad range of musical and cinematic genres, from country and western to hip hop, from documentaries to science fiction. I'm your host, Graham Williamson. I am a filmmaker currently touring his BFI, our Screen Heritage backed short Song of the Suburbs around the UK. I am also a regular writer for The Geek Show and The Geek Show Patreon, and I've been joined this week by...
Aidan, hello there.
Hello,
again.
Aidan. Yeah.
Apparently, I'm the 27 Club, the 27 Club correspondent here.
Yes.
If listeners know me for Pop Screen, I've done all sorts of episodes on this topic, and here I am yet again. Hello. But when I'm not doing that, I promise listeners, I'm not exactly like that all the time. I'm on Letterboxd under the username Aidan F. You can find me on Blue Sky at locations Aidan bsky.social or something or the other like that. And that's pretty much me. Like I say, if I'm not there, I'm in film and TV land all the time as my job, basically. That's me.
Yes. Now, I think in talking about the first film that we're going to do in this Hendrix double bill, I think we should start it off a bit by talking about OutKast, because I don't think we will get much opportunity to talk about Andre Benjamin for the rest of this podcast for a good reason. I think he's genuinely immersive in this role.
This is very true, and like I said, because you have covered OutKast before on the show, haven't you?
We did Idlewild with Joe, yes.
Yeah. So, and truth be told, I mean, because hip hop as a genre is not obviously one of my go-to things, really. It never really has been. So with OutKast, all I can really recall is like when I was growing up in like the mid-noughties, remembering like Hey Ya and Miss Jackson being played on the radio. I remember thinking, oh yeah, those are good numbers. Yeah, I like those. Yeah. And then never bothering with them ever again whatsoever. But it's true though. It's and unfortunately, it's just not how I was brought up with music, really. That's pretty much my stance on OutKast.
That's fair. I had as someone who sort of grew up, whose teenage years were mostly in the 90s. I was not raised on hip hop by any means. I think now it would be very difficult to grow up without hearing much hip hop. But back in the 80s, if you were in Britain, it was actually very easy. And I think OutKast probably sit alongside the Beastie Boys and Missy Elliott as one of the artists that really kind of pulled me around and made me appreciate the genre. So I have a lot of love for Andre Benjamin. I even have a qualified fondness for his dress sense. And I always enjoy seeing him turn up in a film, and he does quite often these days, really.
I think I did notice this. Let me just quickly bring up his filmography again, because there are some... Am I misremembering this? But was he in a Claire Denis film?
Yes.
Years ago. Was it High Life? Yes,
High
that was
Life,
it.
Yeah.
You've unlocked a nugget of information that I completely forgot about, to be honest.
Yes, he appears in the New Yorker profile of Claire Denis that came out at the same time that was released, and it's just the reporter was there for their first meeting, and it was just this beautiful like summit between two people who have no idea who each other are, but are sort of vaguely aware that they might be artistically simpatico. And they were. I really like High Life. I liked seeing him in. He was in a Kelly Reichardt film a few
Oh,
years back.
nice. Oh,
He
lovely.
was in Showing Up, in which he acts very well, but unfortunately, this was the phase of his career where he really, really wanted everyone to know he could play the flute. So there's a lot of Andre Benjamin, flautist and occasional actor in that movie.
I don't see where the Jethro Tull influence is coming from, to be honest, Graham. But okay, that's fair.
Yeah, sadly, he never stands on one leg. That would really that would tip it over for me. I would enjoy that.
And let me be real. Even though I don't look like prog rock at all, I do actually quite like Jethro Tull.
I would be a gog if you didn't like Jethro Tull, Aidan.
Back on point, anyway. Sorry.
Yes. But yeah, you are, as you said, our 27 Club correspondent. We've done episodes on Jim Morrison, Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain. I'm sure there's probably some I'm missing, right?
No, I think that's it in terms of the podcasting wise. Yeah, because we've done the Doors, Amy, and Cobain montage of Heck. And I think that's it, really. And now, but the big pillar that we've kind of, the glaring omission that we missed from this is that we haven't done one on Hendrix yet, which I think it's only fair to do one because, I mean, if you asked anyone in like a pub quiz setting, like who is the greatest guitar player of all time, he's bound to come up as number one all the time. And there's no escape from it, really, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, we've done some guitar heroes on this show. We did a Corey Feldman episode a couple of months back. I mean, what more do you want? But yeah, in terms of being a true guitarist, Hendrix remains, I think, unassailed at the top of the peak.
This is very true because, and like I say, I mean, he's been, and ever since he passed away, like back in like 1970, at the ripe old age, the ripe young age of 27, that legacy and monumentalism has not toppled in like 50 years, which is staggering when you really think of it that way, isn't it?
I have a theory about this. I think that for a good sort of 20 or 30 years after Hendrix died, anyone who was marketed as a guitar hero was, to my mind, excessively focused on technique. It was the Yngwie Malmsteen years.
Well, apart from Yngwie Malmsteen, I mean, because I don't like his music whatsoever.
Yeah, but that is my point. It's just proficiency. There's no feeling in it. It's very fast. It's very impressive in terms of how well he's playing, but it doesn't spike the adrenaline like Hendrix does. I think Hendrix's genius as a guitarist is that he can play very fast and he does know, exactly what kind of mixolydian scale goes with this chord. But also, if the song just needs a really loud thump or a shriek of feedback, he's not too big to just
do
make
that
a noise. Yeah.
No, this is true because, like I say, and there's the proofs like very clearly, when you go back and listen to like his performances like Monterey or Woodstock or anything like that, where he's like obviously covering like well-known artists from like the Beatles to like say other 60s pop groups that I've completely forgotten the names
or the Star Spangled Banner, anything from
the
national anthem,
and like I said, I think that also had a helping hand like cementing his legacy as well, because like I say, I mean, first proper guitarist to actually invoke like a national anthem, really. When you really think about it, first documented version at least. So this is all like congealed together into a legacy that's honestly, like I say, lasted like 50, 60 years now. So,
Yeah. And I think part of the reason why we haven't covered someone who does have this towering reputation is because the Hendrix estate are famously very, very wary of giving away the rights, and particularly giving away the rights to film companies.
This is very true. And like I say, I mean, because, I mean, lately, I mean, in terms of 27 Club, like I say, biopics lately, I mean, obviously there was the Amy Winehouse film that came out like a couple of years ago. I can't remember what it was called. It was Back to Black, wasn't it?
Back to Black by Sam Taylor Johnson, yes.
Yeah. So that got made, and then of course we've also covered like Oliver Stone's The Doors. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Hendrix, apparently the Hendrix estate just doesn't like licensing out his music, really.
I think it's to their credit that they are still really protective about this. You know, other artists tend to get like there's a couple of years grace period after they die, and then suddenly they're turning up in McDonald's commercials or some shit. Whereas the Hendrix estate have really exercised strong control over it for a while.
Yeah.
And I found out about this when I was reading an interview with Terry Gilliam many years ago.
Okay.
And he was talking about wanting to use, I can't remember what song it was, but there was definitely going to be a Hendrix song in the original cut of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
That would make sense. Yeah, I can totally picture that being in there because it's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I mean, come on.
Of course, yeah. You know Hunter S. Thompson would have listened to that, but
yeah, yeah.
Their stated reason, and it's a reason that I think is probably germane to this whole issue of why a licensed Hendrix biopic has never been made, but they didn't allow that because they did not want Hendrix's music to be used in drug-related films.
Right, okay. Is that because of the nature of his death, do you think? Or
I would think so, yeah.
Right, okay, no, fair enough. Right, yeah. No, I see you. I get your point. But then again, like it says, sometimes that does creep out the woodwork occasionally, doesn't it? Because I think All Along the Watchtower is Dylan cover, which of course if you go ask anyone what's like the most transformative cover you've ever heard in your life, everyone picks like Hendrix's version of All Along the Watchtower.
It's either that or Johnny Cash's Hurt, isn't it? They're the two biggest examples of an artist making a song their own.
And this is very true. And but I remember All Along the Watchtower did turn up in. Firstly, did it turn up in Forrest Gump, or am I misremembering that? I have a feeling
it might have.
I can't remember now. But then again, it also. I remember this clearly. It does appear in the trailer. Do you remember Ridley Scott's The Martian?
Oh, yeah.
It appeared in the trailer for that as well. So it does get licensed occasionally. And I'm not entirely sure if that's because of Dylan's part of the proceedings and whether that's the only grey area that they can look over. I don't know. It's, you know, it's that kind of what came first, the chicken or the egg, really, situation, isn't it?
You can. There are a few films which you can hear Hendrix's music in. It appears a couple of the songs appear in With Neil and I, which is, I assume, largely because With Neil and I has a certain producer who carried some sway in the 60s rock industry. It's produced by George Harrison.
Yeah, okay.
I think the nearest thing I've come to a film that's got around the Hendrix estate no drugs edict is, do you remember that there's that use of machine gun in A Serious Man?
Oh, it's been a few years since I've seen A Serious Man, but yeah, you're right, because I think they also use Santana as well in the soundtrack.
There's a lot of
I tell you what it was. No, I remember. It's when Michael Stuhlbarg's arguing in the lobby to his assistant about I do not like Abraxas by Santana.
Yes, like he did not order Santana Abraxas, and he always says it as Santana Abraxas, giving away the fact that he doesn't have a clue what the hell this thing is. Yeah.
That was it. That's again, you're unlocking great information from my brain that I've remembered that I've not remembered for like the last 5-7 years or so.
I think I am giving more information on Hendrix here than you will get from Jimmy All Is By My Side, the film we are reviewing, which is ostensibly a biopic.
And the fact that, again, they had no licensing rights from the Hendrix estate whatsoever. And that's a bit of a problem, really. Because, like I said, this is not the first situation that you've covered on the show where the artist, have, you know, the filmmakers have not had permissions to use the artist's music in question, is it?
Not the first, won't be the last, I can exclusively reveal, listeners.
Because I remember that David Bowie biopic had the same problem, didn't it?
Oh, yes, Stardust. And, you know, Stardust it just has this killer problem in that it is tackling Bowie at the absolute peak of his singer-songwriter years. You know, when he's on the road with Hunky Dory, he's still kind of in that sort of folk singer mold that some of his early stuff was. So yeah, to not have the rights then is catastrophic. With Hendrix, I suppose you could say this didn't have to sync because, as you say yourself, he was as famous for his covers as he was for his original material.
Because they do document. It's directed by John Ridley, by the way, who I don't know a great deal about.
Oh, we'll be getting to John Ridley, I think.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, there are performances in here in Jimmy Always by My Side that is that they do show off that was like monumental, quite key in setting up Hendrix as a guitarist in the early 60s. I mean, they do show off the Sgt. Pepper cover, for example, when they cover Sgt. Pepper in London. After that just got shortly released, and Hendrix is just like, yeah, I think we should totally do a cover, man, of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band as a result. And yeah, that does get shown off here. So it's not entirely, unheard of to think that way.
Can I just say, I sort of admire the gall of like trying to wrestle with one of the most famously strict estates in popular music, and then going, okay, we can't get any Hendrix. What about the Beatles? How much trouble do you want to make for yourself? Why don't you do the triple and have him cover Godspeed You Black Emperor as well?
Oh, now that would be totally transcendent piece of cinema, wouldn't it?
Good.
Yeah. But yes, Jimmy's all is by my side. Basically, one of, I think, 2 attempts to cover the Jimi Hendrix story unofficially in broad strokes. The other being, I think, like a TV movie from like the early 2000s.
Oh, was like that?
Yeah, there was an attempt earlier, but I can't remember. But it was like shown on NBC and like I said, just fell into obscurity. But this is like the second attempt at it. And like I say, Andre 3000 as Hendrix, and a few cast members in here that are like pretty notable now.
It's a good
like people
cast.
like I said, Haley Atwell, Imogen Poots, Bern Gorham, Ruth Negga's in it as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then like I said, 2013 this came out, and I remember distinctly there was an article about it in Classic Rock magazine discussing this, and this is back then when I used to read Classic Rock magazine, when I was obviously getting into this type of music. So, and that's what piqued my interest in thinking about, oh, maybe this would be all right. And here I am, 13 years later, reviewing this film for this podcast, and my God, it's it's not very good at all, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think like my first impression of it, and this is something that I think as a critic you're never meant to say, but sometimes you just have to open the box. My first impression of it was this really is very boring indeed.
This is true. And you, normally for a subject matter who is anything but boring, how can you get away with that, really? Is my question.
You would think that like Andre 3000 playing Jimi Hendrix, that it promises a lot of things. Cool, you'd think. Eye-searing fashion sense, you'd think that would be an easy given, but I don't think anyone would have predicted boring until they saw this.
Yeah, this is very true. And because 90% of this film is like Hendrix in casual conversation with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or whether that be Linda Keith, or who's played by Imogen Poots, or Haley Atwell's character Kathy
Etchingham,
yeah, and it's just like, this is nearly the whole film basically. And why are you? And there's just no coherence to it whatsoever. That you don't get any stakes, you don't get any identity. All of it is pretty like lackluster, 2-dimensional caricatures, like talking about, hey man, I think we should go to London, man, and blah blah blah, and it's just like, yeah, this is not good.
It also tries to do this thing which I'm normally very in favour of, and I don't think I've seen done as badly as it is here, which is that kind of French New Wave, Nicholas Roeg's, Terrence Malick-y style of non-synchronous editing that they keep lapsing into.
Right. Okay. I've noted this is one of the subjects that I wanted to get into, because I thought the editing in this film was fucking appalling.
It is. Yeah, it really is.
It's really bad. It's really, really bad. Because, like I said, you don't expect a biopic, at least a conventionally told biopic, doesn't cut characters off mid-sentence as it does here. And it does, and this film's like non-stop does that. It does it for all the artist cameos that get in here and there. Like I say, the funniest gag I laughed at is the actor playing Keith Richards. He was like moaning about like Kathy like going over, or was it Linda? I think it was Linda actually moving over to Hendrix.
Linda,
yeah. And then all of a sudden he's just moaning to his manager, and then the film just abruptly cuts. It's like cuts him off like mid-sentence. There's no attempt whatsoever. And my God, it makes, you know what it reminds, it makes that scene from Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, that restaurant scene? It makes that look like a fucking Sergei Eisenstein film in comparison. It is terrible. I'm really quite astonished.
I mean, the funny thing is that bit in Bohemian Rhapsody is famously, done because they went through two directors, and it was a famously really troubled production. And I can sort of sympathise with that as an editor, just looking at what they've got and thinking, how the fuck do I salvage this? But what's happening here is very obviously just an attempt to make the editing like jazzier and more psychedelic, and it just looks like they've got the reels mixed up. It's terrible.
Yeah, it falls flat on its face. And like I say, I completely agree. You do sympathise with the people behind Bohemian Rhapsody, because like I say, it was a horrendous production. I have film industry friends who worked on that job, for example, and they speak all the time about it. And like I say, I completely sympathise with them for that. And yeah, you're totally right. It's you can't blame anyone behind the scenes of that film about what happened there, really.
Here, I think you probably can, because this, I'm not normally a stickler for like biopics having to be 100% accurate. I think I'm more interested in asking why you made the changes than sort of saying this is bad because a change was made. And that's not because I think asking that question automatically forgives everything. I think sometimes you can ask, why did you make the changes, and you get an answer that makes the film worse. And in this case, I just don't know why a particular change was made to Hendrix's life story, other, I think, than John Ridley's research was quite bad. That's all I can think of. But when researching this film, I found an interview with Kathy Etchingham in Skeptic magazine. Quite an odd berth to find it in, although I think there is a reason for that that we may get into. But an interview with Kathy Etchingham saying that at no point during their relationship was Jimi Hendrix physically abusive to her.
This is true, because like I said, there is a scene in here where Hendrix like violently beats her with a telephone. And spoilers, by the way, but like I say, and it's a hard pill to swallow, because like I say, because I also watch, like I say, we do research and preparations for this episodes. And from what I understand, Hendrix was not really like that, really. It was highly dubious, like, because he was quite a shy, introverted person when he was not on stage. And
I mean,
I don't know. And it's like I say, should you really be playing with fire that broadly? Is my thing.
As Etchingham herself points out, if a black man beat up a white woman in public in the middle of a pub in the 1960s, he would still be in jail now. And the film has acknowledged that, because one of the few really good scenes in it is the one a bit before that where Hendrix is confronted by two racist police officers. And I think Andre Benjamin plays that beautifully, by the way. He's just not quite sure how seriously to take them. And it's a really good scene.
Yeah, this is true. There are a couple nuggets here and there that are quite decently handled. I will give the film that. And like I said, Benjamin, I think is doing his best with the material, but I do feel as if he is a bit unsure with how to take the performance, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And it doesn't quite come off as convincingly as what it should be. I think that's my stab at it, my take at it. But yes, carry on, Graham.
Well, I've seen biopics which deal with, great geniuses who were also abusive. I think we all have by this point. And there's always, it's never a comfortable thing to have to put in a film. We're recording this before the release of Antoine Fuqua's Michael Jackson biopic, which has been, the source of film industry gossip for over a year now, as they are apparently tying themselves in knots over how to deal with the allegations against Jackson in that. So considering how stressful it can be and how much it can drag a film off course to do this, I'm sort of thinking, why would you do it when you don't have to? Why would you do it when it's not true?
Yeah, it's like I say, it's a pit that the film can't escape from, isn't it?
Yeah, because it does sort of want you to go back to investing in Hendrix's rise to fame after this, and it's quite hard when he's just done something so unsympathetic. And I think that would be a tough hole to get out of, even if it wasn't total bullshit, which it is.
Yeah, and the fact that, like I say, they don't have the license to Hendrix's music at all, which makes it even harder.
It's like, the triumph at the end is quite shallow because it seems like he's just learned how to be a really good covers act.
It's totally true.
He's found someone else's voice at last.
Oh dear.
But yeah, so I read the Skeptic interview by Julia Burke with Kathy Etchingham, and it is a gold mine of information on what the fuck was happening with these allegations. Apparently, Curtis Knight, who was a member of Hendrix's backing band, a member of the Jimi Hendrix Experience, wrote the 1974 biography, which this claim first appeared in. And this, I think, is why it interested Skeptic, which, as the name implies, is mostly interested in skepticism and debunking and the like. But Etchingham says that she isn't sure why Knight's biography was considered so authoritative by the production, considering that, and I quote, "I am told that it also describes Jimmy traveling on the astral plane with purple rays coming out of his eyes."
Ooh, okay. Sorry, repeat that again, please.
In a biography of Jimi Hendrix, a biography filed in the non-fiction section of bookshops, one of Jimi Hendrix's backing band says that Hendrix travelled on the astral plane and shot purple lasers out of his eyes.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to make a biopic out of.
Maybe I'm like really judgmental, but if I came across that in a book, I would think, not sure about the reliability of this.
So right, okay.
But
John.
there's one other bit of the Skeptic interview that I think is worth quoting at length, because I just think it kind of puts its finger on one of the big things that is wrong with this film. And you may not see it as black and white a way as Etchingham does. I think Etchingham understandably takes this very personally, but it's kind of there in the film. She says, "I am depicted as loudmouthed low-class groupie in the film from the low-class groupie sexist stereotype. If Ridley had contacted any of Jimmy's London friends, they could have put him right there. It is essential to his storyline, though, because in the film, I'm the bad groupie who wears ugly clothes and goes bonkers and takes an overdose, while Linda Keith is the good groupie who inexplicably never gets together with Jimmy. In fact, Linda Keith was not around and she disappeared after Jimmy's first day in England.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, like I say, so Kathy Etchingham has a bone to pick, really, with Mr. Ridley,
Kathy
and
Etchingham is pissed, and I greatly
yeah,
enjoyed reading this. Yes.
yeah. No, yeah, no, fair play. Because, like I say, I mean, because she had she wasn't just like a friend of Hendrix; she was his fucking girlfriend at the end of
She
the
was his
day. So,
girlfriend. She
yeah.
inspired Foxy Lady. She inspired The Wind Cries Mary. You
Mm,
know, this was a major, major relationship, perhaps
yeah.
the most important romantic relationship in Hendrix's life.
So, yeah. So to dismiss her as like a bad groupie is
Mm.
pretty insulting, to be honest. It is a massive slap in the face.
So this opens up the next question, which is, what the fuck is John Ridley's deal? And there's a story here, I think, too.
Hmm.
I knew John Ridley as a screenwriter,
Okay.
and he's a screenwriter who tends to have a tough time with directors. And I will say, not always his fault. He had a clash with David O. Russell. Everyone has a clash with David
Yeah.
O. Russell, you know.
Yeah, and I just remember like the story about David O. Russell and then George Clooney having a fight or something like that for, is it Three
Same
Kings or something?
film, same
Yeah.
film, Three
Was it?
Kings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Carry on.
Now, what happened there was that Ridley had written a spec script about a heist during the Gulf War, and
Hmm.
Russell was like, "Well, I like the pitch, but I want to write my own version of it." And you know, Ridley was understandably pissed off about that.
Hmm.
Many years later, he resurfaces as the screenwriter of 12 Years a Slave by
I
Sir
noticed
Stephen
this.
King.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I noticed this. Yeah, yeah. Probably the biggest thing on his CV, isn't it?
I will
If
say
not
so.
the biggest thing on his CV. Yeah.
It won him an Oscar.
Mm.
And I remember a few people observing. I don't think anyone's ever got to the bottom of this. I think it's just one of those things where people moved on to other bits of gossip.
Hmm.
But I remember during the ceremony, people were saying that Steve McQueen did not look happy when John Ridley won that Oscar.
Right. Okay.
So
Hmm.
it's possible that he's someone who gets rewritten a lot, gets sick of it, goes off to make his own movies. I mean, you know, in Hollywood, this is a tale as old as time.
Mm. Hmm.
The other thing about John Ridley is that I think his politics are fucking insane. Like, he, he wrote an essay for, I think it was Esquire, which has a title that I cannot possibly repeat, but it's basically, you know, there's that Chris Rock bit from the 90s, isn't there? One of Chris Rock's first famous stand up bits about black people versus, and then there's a bit that I'm too white to sort of
Hmm.
repeat. But
Yeah.
Chris Rock, I think, regrets that routine now, but he got away with it because, you know, he's a stand-up comedian. You expect there to be some level of exaggeration and hyperbole in a stand-up comedian's routine.
Hmm.
John Ridley's essay seems to imply that this is literally how he views the world, that there are awful low-class blacks who he hates and who are all
Yeah.
liberals.
Yeah.
And then there are fine, dignified African American heroes who we should all look up to, like he names Condoleezza Rice,
Right.
Clarence Thomas, and
Right.
Colin Powell. And
Uh-huh.
when I first read this, I thought, "Oh, John, that's bad luck," because you've clearly a lot of it was about how Rice and Powell particularly handled the aftermath of 9/11, and I thought, "Oh, John, feel kind of bad
Hmm.
for you here," because obviously
Hmm.
afterwards, Colin Powell made a complete tit of himself, saying
Hmm.
that Saddam Hussein had, I think he was saying he had the reality bomb from the Daleks' master plan. I think that was the allegation that he had. Uh, Going in front of the UN and saying that. And I thought, oh, well, that's a shame. It looks bad in retrospect. Then I checked the date. I thought, 2006? Are you fucking kidding me? John Ridley saw Colin Powell disgrace himself on an international scale, clown himself forever at the behest of his moron of a boss. And he sat there going, that is Black American achievement. That is an independent thinking, sovereign black man who does exactly what he's told.
You know what this reminds me of? Recently, Tony Blair said, like, the famous insult to Keir Starmer, that Keir Starmer should have backed Trump in the recent Iran war. This is what this reminds me of, and I'm just like, you fucking nuts, you an idiot.
I thought that was fucking hilarious because it turns out that is literally the only thing that will get Labour's polling numbers up. Like after Tony Blair said he thinks Keir Starmer's a bad leader, there was like a jump up a couple of percent as people thought, if that cunt hates him, he can't all be bad, can he?
Oh my god, that's what this reminds me of, and it's just like bitchy infighting for just it's hilarious.
So
yeah,
I'm trying to wrap this guy together into a psychological profile, and I'm thinking, does he just think Jimi Hendrix is low class? Is he reading this drivel that no one should take seriously about how, he punched his girlfriend in the face and then went on an astral trip with his I-beams, and think, does he just sort of not get onto the I-beam bit because he thought, a woman beater, I should have known. Yeah, he should be more like Colin Powell.
Oh my god.
He should treat women well like Clarence Thomas does.
Good Lord, John. What are you thinking? I mean,
and this is kind of like, I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about this abuse scene, largely because the film has almost nothing else of interest about it. But
yeah, this is true, because there's nothing else really to talk about, like scene-wise, because like I say, everything else is either, like I said, just casual conversations and bars, or that one outside location of like a back alley or a balcony, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all the film's got going for it. It's very Channel 5 Band 1 drama on a Saturday night, isn't it? But even then, I think
find yourself watching, like, particularly period dramas, do you find yourself watching it from a location manager's point of view now, where
I do, yeah. And that's the thing, because like I said, because even Channel 5 dramas now have more effort put into the locations now than what I'm seeing these days when I'm on this world constantly. There's like I said, the location selection in this is just like so limited and what they can do with the budget, and it is not good. I can tell you that.
And you know that it's facing that classic period drama where, like, if they tilt the camera a bit to the left, there's a big glass-fronted building. If they tilt it to the right, someone's, refusing to move their Tesla or something for the shoot. So you've got this very narrow window where it looks a bit 60s, and they just keep going back to it.
Yeah, like I said, because the only shot variation that they're allowed is close-ups. That's it, nothing else. And it's like, wow, okay, yeah, you could tell like nothing else was spent on this production-wise, was there?
I think one of the regular handicaps of music biopics, I'm less down on music biopics than most people. I sort of don't care that they've got stock scenes, just like I don't care that westerns and horror movies have stock scenes, but they have recurring problems. I think they often have difficulty showing a moment of inspiration, which isn't a problem here because they don't have any rights to the song. You don't have to show Hendrix coming up with Purple Haze because they can't play Purple Haze. So fair enough, we've got out of that one. But the other one that they always have a problem with, and this film has a massive problem with, is exposition.
No, carry on. Because yeah.
There's like this bit very early on where Andrew Loog Oldham is talking to Linda Keith, and they've been on screen for a while. Andrew Loog Oldham is introduced with a caption that just says Andrew Loog Oldham, Rolling Stones manager. And I thought, oh, that's kind of nice. That means that we don't have to have someone sort of come on and say, hey, this is Andrew Loog Oldham. He manages the Rolling Stones. You can just write it there. The two problems. Firstly, I think that captions device becomes massively overused.
It so is, because like I say, every character in this gets a credit like that. And even down to like the Hendrix experiences of other bandmates like Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell.
Yeah.
And they're used in exactly the same way. And I'm just like, you don't need me to tell me that, because like I say, the two backing members of the Hendrix experience going into that. So I was just like, I know who they are. Thank you, film. Thank you for reminding me.
I've never really considered that, but yeah, when I see characters playing in Jimi Hendrix's backing band, I sort of assume that they're in Jimi Hendrix's backing band.
So anyone who has a knowledge of this is completely self-defeating, and like I say, completely overused. Saying Noel Redding, Keith Richards, like I say, Chaz Chandler, and I'm just like, oh my god, can we stop this, please?
It becomes like one of those bad impressionists who start off every sketch with "Hello, I'm so and so."
Yeah,
but the other problem I had with the Andrew Loog Oldham bit is that having like removed the need for a clunky bit of dialogue explaining who Andrew Loog Oldham is, it then has some anyway. He goes outside and he says to Linda Keith, oh, you're probably sick of everyone thinking you're Keith Richards' girlfriend, and just like I'm sick of everyone seeing me as just the Rolling Stones manager. And it's like, I don't think you'd be sick of people saying you was just the manager of one of the biggest bands in the world. I think that would probably be all right, to be honest, but at least you've said it.
It is like hammering the audience with a jackhammer, isn't it, by this point? And it's like completely unnecessary. Like I say, just really bad screenwriting, isn't it? I mean, I mean, the other perspective that I'm getting from this is like, because obviously, like I said, there's nothing like resource-wise being spent on like locations and like I say, the period setting or costume or set design or anything like that. So to make this also work, they also hyper montage bits and pieces from 60s clip footage as well, which can only get you so far. It's all right if you use it like once, but again, like the titles of every character that appears in this, completely gets thrusted into the DNA of this way too quickly, and it lasts forever. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, no, it doesn't quite work. Yeah, it completely becomes like an overused cliche that the film can't get out of.
It probably does. I was a bit more generous to that, just on a shallow level of, I liked seeing some Bridget Riley paintings, but I don't, you're right, I don't think that the deficit in like believable period detail is really sort of evened out by having a couple of clips from Gorgo in there for some reason.
I mean, the one that got me was very early on. There's a sexual tension scene between Hendrix and I think it's Linda. Very early on. And then as soon as that happened, the film just cuts to from like them playing like leopard skin pillbox hat from Bob Dylan in the background, and then it just abruptly cuts to the Buddhist monk setting himself on fire during the Vietnam protest.
And you think, again, thank God no one gave Ridley the rights to the music, because he would have played fire at that point.
It was so true, and it's like, wow, okay, man. I mean,
nothing gets my motor running like a bit of self-immolation in protest of imperialism. What were you thinking? The weirdest one, I've just looked at my notes and I'd forgotten about this, but when one of the members of the Animals comes on, there's a couple of members of the Animals here because a lot of them had drifted into management at this point.
Like I said, Chaz Chandler being the most notable one.
I think it was Chaz Chandler, because Michael Jeffrey is the other one who turns up later, played by Bern Gorman.
Mm.
I've seen Bern Gorman in something. Yeah, he's a good.
I like Bern Gorham as well.
Yeah,
It's nice when
same.
he does pop up from everything from like the Christopher Nolan films to like an A24 horror sometimes. It's quite nice. But then again, is Bern Gorham the guy who like is randomly like throwing knives at a business suit on a wall somewhere?
He is. Yeah, yeah.
Is that him? Right. Okay. Well, I'm not entirely sure why he's doing that, but never mind.
No, I was a bit puzzled by that. But the other guy is played by Andrew Buckley, and there's a very odd decision to when he says that he used to be in the Animals, they intercut footage of the Animals playing, and it's not like
the famous like House of the Rising Sun performance. Is it the Top of the Pops? I can't remember.
It doesn't look like Top of the Pops. I think Top of the Pops would have been black and white at that stage. But
yeah, I can't remember. I'm afraid.
yeah, but that's very odd, isn't it? to have a scene where someone is playing a character and then cut to the real person they're playing.
And it is very why. Yeah, it's like I said, it's just so like there's no attempt to make this authentic whatsoever, is there?
No.
In those bits, is there?
I think constantly like showing people the authentic 60s, whether it's that clip of the Animals or some footage of Carnaby Street, just rubs your nose in how inauthentic the rest of it is. Thankfully, they don't do this for every famous person who appears in the film, because this is a film that wrestles early with the problem that Sam Mendes is currently wrestling with, which is just that
right now
there are no actors who look like George Harrison for some reason. You cannot cast someone as George Harrison who looks anything like George Harrison.
Yeah. At least with Andre Brevin, Andre Brevin, sorry, Andre 3000. That'll be
Andre
interesting.
Benjamin. Yeah.
Yeah. Andre Brevin, that's a very different story of the Hendrix story that I'm thinking of now. Andre 3000. At least you can get aware of that, because, like I say, the proof's just there as soon as you see him as Hendrix. Yeah. So.
I think he's like the only plausible casting you could have done around this time for a Hendrix biopic. I don't know if there's, this is the one area where if the Hendrix estate does actually come out and say, we've met someone who has absolutely the right idea and they're going to film a proper Jimi Hendrix biopic with no drugs somehow. The one bit of this film that they would have trouble matching is the central casting, I think.
This is true. And I think Hayley Atwell does pretty well, despite playing a character that's absolutely not what Kathy Etchingham was like in real life at all. I think she does try her hardest as well. And same with Imogen Poots, I think. I think the cast is like the one thing that's actually trying to put some effort into this, really.
Yeah, I would say that, all of the actors are innocent. I think even when a performance doesn't work, it is more down to the characterization and the script than their work. And I think Imogen Poots always gives good boho, doesn't she? She's very good at these kind of sort of artsy, sort of wild living kind of characters, and she always has been. And it's nice seeing her do it again here, even if it isn't maybe the biggest stretch.
Like I say, it's nice that she managed to pick herself up after this as well, because like I say, she's been in, because this was like the year or two before Green Room,
yeah,
like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, and ever since then, she's been doing all sorts. So good on her.
Yeah, I saw her turn up in Nia DaCosta's Hedda Gabler adaptation a bit back. So again, playing someone quite sort of I don't know what you'd call it, quite very sort of emotional, very chaotic, going to a very fancy party. And as soon as Imogen Poots turns up, you just think, oh yeah, of course Imogen Poots is in this.
Yeah,
she does this better than anyone else in the world.
Yeah. It's just, but like I said, John Ridley is certainly not Nia DaCosta, is he? I mean,
he's just very further away DaCosta. He's the opposite of Nia DaCosta.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I think I can find things that I can isolate and say this person did a good job, but I think the two crippling problems this film has is that it is boring and morally reprehensible.
Boring, morally reprehensible, badly edited, and
Yes.
it's like I said, to top things all off, just doesn't need to exist. It's like the hardest thing I could say about it, to be honest. Because, like I say, if you don't want to have the license to Hendrix music, it's it's the thing that just comes crashing like everything all down together, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
It's funny because when I heard about this film, I thought, oh, that's quite a good idea. Focus on his early career, his session musician years. You can get round it. And then it just spends the rest of its time creating problems
But
for
when
the
it doesn't,
problems it's just solved.
it's so true though. It's like as soon as it fixes like 3 or 4 problems, another like 7 emerge. It's like,
It's really
oh my
weird.
god.
It's like seeing someone pull off a juggling act and then just randomly smash a custard pie in their face, and you think, well, you didn't have to do that. You were doing quite well before.
And this is like I say, it's just a never-ending conga line of these logistics like going wrong, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it's just not a good film, man. It's pretty bad.
Now, we mentioned at the start of the show that this is a duology, a diptych, if you will, of Jimi Hendrix films. In order to listen to the next one, you will have to subscribe to our Patreon at www.patreon.com/Geek Show, where you will also find a host of other stuff. We do monthly roundup podcast where we talk about what we've read and watched and listened to that month. That's called Last Night. We are prepping 2 new podcasts. I think by the time this goes out, Rob will have released the first episode of They'll Love Us When We're Dead, looking at divisive or uneven film franchises of years gone by. And I will be prepping the first episode of myself and Mark Cunliffe's new arts and literature show for the Patreon, which I'm delighted to formally announce will be called The Arts Hole.
Oh my goodness, that fantastic.
I had the idea and no one told me I couldn't do it.
Fantastic.
But yes, in the immediate future, you will be able to hear Aidan and I talk about Down on Us. And if you don't know what Down on Us is, you've got quite the ride ahead of you. But
yes, yeah. I'm sealing my lips any further. Yeah.
Yes. Before that, Aidan, just remind people where they can find you online.
You can find me on Letterboxd under the username Aidan F. I'm at bsky.social, at locations Aidan. Those are the 2 main places you can find me. It's mostly my Letterboxd these days. That's me.
Same. Yeah, I am most active on Letterboxd. Just search for Graham Williamson. I've got a website at grahamwilliamsonfilms.com where you can find out about new screenings of Song of the Suburbs and any other future projects that I'm doing. I have an Instagram at Graham W Film, and of course, I'm on the Geek Show as a regular critic there. So Aidan and I will be back very soon, but only on Patreon. This free feed will swing back into action in a couple of weeks' time. Until then, I've been Graham.
I've been Aidan.
And that's been your lot from Pop Screen.